Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another exciting edition of Free Advice Friday. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we got to do one of these things, so it's nice to be back and with a special guest today who is going to answer all of your questions on SEO, because I think we all have lots and lots of questions on SEO. So, Gina Scarpa, welcome to the show.
Yay,
How's
thank
the
you so much
how's
for
the
having me.
air?
You know what? The air is better today. It was a little sketchy the day before yesterday, not as bad as New York. I'm in Connecticut. But today I was outside, I was like, okay, like it's probably not gonna kill me. So we're doing our
I had to laugh. You and I were talking a little bit before we came on here. Everybody was sending me
yeah.
messages, and they were very worried about me and whether or not I was doing okay up here in Canada. And the reality was, where I was at, it wasn't actually that bad compared to
Mhm.
pictures and video and whatnot that I was seeing from New York and a DC area, and I was like, holy mackerel! So yeah, we're
Right?
doing okay here, but I know
Yes,
that's like people probably didn't come here today to listen to us talk about the wildfires. So
I don't know. A lot of people want to talk about the wildfires. Just go on Facebook.
it's
It's all
very,
everybody
very,
wants to talk
very
about.
exciting stuff. It is a
The
very
hot
hot topic
topic.
right now.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
I was looking today earlier. I was like, okay, maybe I need to buy some lumber futures, because the last time we had wildfires like this in Canada, the price of 2x4s went from $3
Know
to
what?
$12.
It's
So
big brain.
yeah, so maybe it's time to buy some lumber futures. But actually, what we are here to talk about today is SEO, the good old search engine optimization,
Mhm.
because we all dream of being page one on Google. Although I don't think for most of us that may not necessarily be a reality. But you've got some pretty top ranking pages on Google, don't you?
I do. I think my best one, I'm just checking because I don't wanna brag about it if it's not true. I think one of my best ones is kids voiceover coaching because it's really niche and things like that. So I have in a lot of the non-broadcast genres, I've made a lot of headway over the last, 6 months to 8 months or something like that. And I love helping people with it too because I think they have misconceptions about SEO or think that they can't do it by themselves. And I'm always in favor of putting the power back into your hands, which I know you are too. So this is perfect.
But you actually bring up a very valid point when you say, I've made it to, page one for some very niche topics. I think that in and of itself is part of the trick to SEO, right? It's if you think that you're going to get page one for the word voiceover,
No.
um, unless you have the money to compete with Fiverr and voices.com and voice 123 or whatever, no, you're
Yeah.
probably not getting page one for voiceover. But if
Yeah.
you niche down and you think about some of those very specific areas where you are, where you're working, or very specific keywords that could be associated with you, if you're the Sam Elliott sound alike or things like that, that's where you're much more likely to get some results. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just answering this question from somebody. I was on a panel for a Skills Hub class with Jennifer Hale, who is just an amazing voiceover artist, and I coach and teach for her a bit as well. And someone was saying, "Hey, so I share the same name as a really famous athlete, so it's very hard for me to rank, my own site over him." And I said, yeah, like, that is a concern, but when it comes to SEO, like, of course you wanna rank for your own name, but typically when people are searching, they're not looking for your
They're
name,
not searching
they're
for
looking
you.
for new talent, right? So they're trying to figure out, "Oh, man, I wonder if there's, maybe there's some female political voice talent I haven't heard yet, and we're about to go into an election year." So that's what they're looking for, and that's what we're trying to rank for. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Getting specific about the genres that you do work in or wanna work in and building content around that can rank well in Google can be like such a game changer in voiceover. And because so many people avoid it or just don't know how to start, the people that do utilize SEO have such an advantage because we all want those, auditions directly in our inbox. That's what we're always trying to
That
chase,
is the dream. Yes.
right? Exactly.
There's a British runner named Mark Scott, and I always know when he wins a race because I wake up in the morning and my Twitter is filled with all of these notifications, and it's because everybody's congratulating him on his whatever race he's won, but
Right?
he's not me, right? So
That's
I
hilarious.
feel I feel that, there's somebody famous sharing your name and trying to rank for that, but
Yeah.
so, for those of you that are watching, if you do have a question that is related to SEO, by all means, feel free to type it into the comments. Just put a Q
Yes.
beside it when you type it, and I'll be watching for that to pop up in the chat stream. And we're certainly happy to take questions and answer questions as we get into this.
Yeah.
So let's bust one myth right out of the gate, though. I think
Sure.
there is a common misconception that in order to have any level of success with SEO, you've got to spend, multiple thousands of dollars in order to make this happen.
Yep.
And there are services out there that offer to do incredible things with SEO for you for multiple thousands of dollars, but it doesn't have to be that way. There are things that somebody like me or whoever can do without that. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need to spend a lot of money at all. What you need to spend is some time, and some
Yeah.
people just don't like to write. And so the
Yep.
minute I say you got to write content, they're like, "Oh god." So if you want to, therefore pay someone to do it for you, that's kind of where it makes sense. But if you have the inclination and you have the ability to write, then there's no reason you can't do it yourself. But what you want to be doing is separating out each genre that you work in or want to work in into its own page, and each of
Yep.
those pages has, 3 to 500 words of content. So it's, it is time consuming, but once you have your page and your site where you want it to be, it's just doing work in the background for you on Google. And, it's really, I feel great that I was able to do it myself and with the help of my sister who works as my assistant. And I always joke, like, what kind of big sister would I be if I didn't employ her? But she has her master's degree in English. So, like I've got a little bit of extra help here.
So there are things that we can do. Writing is a big part of it. I'm curious when we talk about genre specific pages, and I think strictly from a marketing standpoint, forget SEO for a minute. Strictly from a marketing standpoint, genre specific pages are fantastic, but mix in the copy on those pages, and now you've created a great marketing tool and a great SEO tool. But how
Yes.
often do they need to be updated? Because if you write a great genre specific page and you work your way up
Mhm.
the Google rankings, are you going to stay there? Or over time, if the page has not got fresh content on it, do you start to work your way back down again?
No, I mean, you can pretty much set it and forget it. I think what happens is that as other people, I'm like helping everyone compete against me on Google, but as other
Yeah.
people kind of start to figure it out and start to rank, yeah, you're going to see more competition. I mean, I really go in and update my genre specific pages with more recent projects that I've done. But other than that, I pretty much leave it alone because Google doesn't just look at, who's got the newest content. They want to see, who's coming onto your page, who's staying there, who's clicking around, are you being cited on other websites and things like that? So there's a lot of different factors that go into SEO, but I always tell people the first place we want to start is with that content, and then pretty much we can, leave it alone. Actually, one of my biggest competitors for kids voiceover coaching is a friend of mine. And I told her one day, I was like, wow, you're like right there on page one. She's like, that is from a blog article that I wrote 6 years ago. And it's
Wow.
still hanging out on page one. So if that kind of makes people feel better, it's like once you've written it and you feel good about it, you can pretty much leave it as is because that's really just step one of the SEO. And that's what I'm always trying to convince people to, get going.
So you mentioned the blog article, which brings up a question. This one's from Steven. How much does a blog on your website elevate SEO?
It actually does really help elevate it because it falls under the category. So the way Google works, I always tell people you want to think of EAT, which is expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So besides the fact that you can demonstrate, your abilities and your talent on your genre specific pages, you can also demonstrate some knowledge in your blog posts. And so if you have other voice actors coming on the site and maybe reading your blog posts, but your genre specific pages are targeting clients. Now you have two different segments of people coming to the site. So it actually really does help. And you want to write your blog posts a lot of times based on what people might be searching for. So, something like, how do I get started as a voice actor? Or how much do voice actors make? Or what is a directed session like?
Oh, all
Sort of
voice
things like
actors make $100,000 a year,
that. Did
right?
you
That's
know?
that's what CNBC says, right? That's the
Oh my
impression that
God.
they give.
Yeah, you can just do it in your pajamas and that's
Yeah.
it. As a side hustle and make six figures.
Yeah.
You don't have to work hard at all. Yeah, so if you're kind of thinking of your blog, I think the blog tends to target voice actors more than clients. You can write some for clients as well. Maybe it could be about usage rates for commercial because sometimes people don't realize, that there is a usage rate. It could be about the rise of AI since everybody likes to talk about it. Like there are some ways that you can target clients as well, but I would say really you're writing it for voice actors. And it does help, demonstrate your expertise if you feel like you have that to share. Sometimes I feel like people try to make content or
Just
like
for the sake
tell,
of making
yeah,
content.
like
Yeah.
telling other people what to do, but it's like they're kind of new and they haven't really done that much. And I even though I coach a lot or teach a lot, I really have a hard time making coaching content on TikTok and stuff because I'm like, everybody's doing it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the blog then. And I'm watching for questions again. If you do have a question that you would like to ask, just type a Q beside it. It'll pop up in the chat.
Yeah.
And hit that like button if you're here and you're watching and enjoying the content so far. We'd appreciate that as well. When
Yes,
it comes
please.
to writing a blog for
Mhm.
SEO, does posting schedule and consistency matter, or is it primarily content? Like, if I write a blog once a week, does that rank better than if I write a blog once a month? Or if I'm going to write a blog once a month, do I just need to make sure that I always write once a month? Like, do those sorts of rules apply, or is it really just about the content and the keywords and getting that onto your website?
Well, it's kind of a hard question to answer because, of course, if you're able to be consistent and be like, every Friday I'm putting on a new blog and people kind of get to know you for that and then they're going to the site, that's great because that's what we want. We want visitors on the site. And yes, people who pump out more content than others are going to rank better than others, in theory. But I think it's okay. I mean, I don't write nearly as much as I should. I just sometimes get too busy and it kind of goes on the back burner. I actually have two blog articles just sitting in drafts now that my sister keeps yelling at me to post. But I mean, if you could kind of commit yourself to doing like, one every other week or something, that's totally reasonable because, I know it can feel overwhelming, but ideally it'd be like once a week is amazing. Once every other week is great. Even once a month is fine. As long as you're just constantly, updating with some new content, blogs are a great way to keep your website fresh.
So I suppose part of it too is, are you writing a blog to build a blog audience, like, Paul Strickwerda, for example,
Sure.
writing a blog to build a blog audience, or are you writing a blog strictly for the SEO? And those
Yes.
are two different objectives. And so
That's
then
a good
that
point.
probably makes a difference in what your strategy is.
That is a good point because it really depends on, yeah, exactly. Like, who are you targeting and what do you want out of this? I mean, some people write like sort of more personal, opinion based blog articles, right? Where we're not really thinking about keywords and ranking. I personally write articles for like search engines. And if people read it, great. So I write it in a way that's like, if you found it and you read it, hopefully it gives you some good information and you walk away from it being like, wow, that was helpful. But really it's so that Google keeps picking up new content from me, seeing that I have that, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness, and it just kind of helps my site grow further. But that's a really good point. It depends on who you want to write for. If you want to
Right
write for
on.
yourself or for your audience, great. If you want to write for Google, that's a little bit of a different story.
Here's an interesting question from Phil. If we make SEO related changes to our website, about how long should we give it to gauge results on Google? Are we talking about a week? Are we talking about a month? Is it going to happen the next day? Do we just have to ask the spider to crawl again?
I was about to say. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you could submit an updated sitemap or something like that, which will, hopefully trigger the spiders to I hate that. Ew, the spiders to come back. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say how long it takes for Google to crawl your site again. I mean, I usually give it at least 30 days and then wait. But honestly, I've seen changes quicker than that sometimes too. I think when I put up I think it was maybe my political page. It was like very quickly, it started to make a lot of progress in the search rankings. I was very happy with it, but it really depends. But I'd say give it minimum of 30 days, but it could be 60 and it could be 90. It's like it's sort of like, with, all that Marc talks about with direct marketing. It's like, it's a waiting game and you're sort of planting the seeds and waiting to see.
But you can actually go in manually and ask the spider to crawl again or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, okay. So patience is a virtue, but it's important to pay attention to that, right? So that's where, I mean, having some Google Analytics or whatever analytics that you use, right? You want to have a general idea of where you're at to start. Am I
Right.
getting, what's my traffic? What are my page views, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that after you've implemented some of these changes, you can see whether or not this is working. So here's a question from Wesley. What's
Yes.
the deal with these things called backlinks?
Okay. Well, so backlinks are really necessary for making big progress on Google. And what you want is there's a lot of different ways you can get them, but some of the easiest ways, I guess, are to get interviewed, maybe, from anything from your local paper to your alma mater to a podcast that has a website that's going to link back to you and not a no follow link. It has to be a legitimate link to you from them and Google can make the connection between the two. So that's how I've been able to build up my SEO as well. I went on a little like podcast tour in the first half of 2023, just, doing interviews with all kinds of people. It was really
I
fun,
feel so
actually.
used.
No, why?
I thought you
I'm
were
just
just
here.
coming on the show because you
Not
wanted to be,
you.
but you're like, no, I just need to get
No,
Mark's
no.
backlinks.
No, never, never, like, link to me. No, never, never. I love talking to Mark, but no, it was, like, podcasts that were about all kinds of things, like, a lot of about female entrepreneurs, about women in gaming, since I love video games and I love to voice video games, and so they linked to me, and then I wrote a guest blog article for VoiceOver Extra, so you could write guest blog articles for other sites, but like I said, your local paper might be, or the local news might be super interested that,
Yep.
there's a voice actor right in their hometown or their home area.
Making six figures in their pajamas.
Obviously,
Yes.
so that's how you're getting those backlinks, but you have to do the work for it. Now, some people purchase backlinks, and that can be kind of shady. Sometimes you have to be super careful about it because if Google figures out that you're doing shady practices, they could just wipe your URL off of the search results completely. So I like to do it, the hard way and the long way, but that's okay. But that's going to be another very important piece of SEO. But I always tell people we could just start with the content, and then once you start feeling comfortable and you're like, okay, that's done, phase 2 is definitely getting the backlinks. It's going to make a huge difference.
Okay. Heather says, what does the T stand for in the EAT acronym again?
Trustworthiness, expertise,
Trustworthiness.
authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
All right, there you go. So that's the EAT acronym, which are the factors in helping to build the credibility on your website and making sure that you're worthy of the rankings. Okay. How about this one? A technical question. If there are 3 or 4 keywords that have the same meaning and search intent, if I want to rank them all, what is the best practice? Trying to rank them on the same page or trying to rank them on separate pages?
I mean, it's kind of hard without an example.
What those words are, like if it's
Yeah.
like voiceover, and
Well,
voiceover and all the different spellings.
exactly. So voiceover is one word, voiceover is 2 words, and voice actor. You do kind of want to spread it out and try to use them, interchangeably throughout the site so that you're not missing one of them. But kind of like Mark was saying early on, those ones, voiceover, voice actor, it's going to be so hard to rank because you're competing against voices.com, Fiverr, a lot of big sites, that have a marketplace and a huge like share on Google as well of those keywords. But, something like female political, female political voice, political voiceover talent, political voiceover. Like I would use all of those on the political page. So yeah,
Right.
you can by the way, every page can really rank for about 2 to 3 keywords, maybe 4. So when we're talking about marketing, I'm sure a lot of you have heard a one-page website with your email at the top and your downloadable demos, is enough. And it is. But if you want to rank on Google, you're going to need those separate pages, each one of them targeting, 2 to 4 keywords per page. So yeah, you could use some interchangeable keywords and try to, rank for all of them.
What about keyword stacking? Because there are rules about, like, if you're trying to rank for something and you can put it in too much and it actually works against you, right?
Yes. So a good rule of thumb is for every 100 words of content, you write 1 keyword. So yeah, I mean, in the old days, let's like throw it back to the early days of the internet. See, I didn't see the internet until I was 18. So showing
Back
my
in the
age.
days of GeoCities and
Back in the
Netscape
days of
2.0.
AOL's chat rooms. And yeah, if you didn't have a GeoCity site, were
What
you
was
even
that?
living?
ICQ Messenger.
Yeah. Like, were you even living? But anyway, like, yeah, people would, like sort of at the bottom of pages, just stuff the keywords like over and over and over. But, as Google has evolved, it's gotten more and more important to them that the user experience is good, which is why you say like, yes, technically I'm writing for Google, but I write it with humans in mind. So you don't want to overstuff and get super salesy about it. And, I think my sister's done such a great job on my site, which is ginascarpa.com. And if you sort of look through the genres, she did such a great job of talking about my background, my personality. And now that we're talking about this, you could kind of see those keywords. They're like sprinkled in. It's almost like you wouldn't even really notice if you weren't reading it with SEO in mind, hopefully.
So what you're saying is that the dreaded word conversational has now come to SEO as well.
Yeah,
we have to
it's
write,
everywhere.
Yes. Because I know that used to be a thing back in the day, right? Was you used to write 1,000 words on your webpage, but you used to make it like a different color so it didn't actually appear. And you weren't really writing anything. You were just putting in a whole bunch of words and sentences or whatever.
Exactly.
And you can't get away with that anymore.
No.
So
No.
All right. Well, again, if you're enjoying what we've got so far, please hit that like button. We'd appreciate that. If you do have a question that you would like to ask, type it into the comments. Put a Q beside it. It stands out a little bit more on the screen, so it's easier for me to see it. Voiceover, or voiceover.
I saw. I saw that. I can actually see the chat, which is great. Okay, great question. Well, I tend to talk about voiceover as one word, voiceover as two words, or voice actor. Because more and more people have been calling themselves voice actors over the last, maybe 5 years or so. It's become more common. But here's what I can tell you. All three of those are incredibly hard to rank for. It takes a lot of on-page SEO, a lot of link building, and a lot of promoting your content out in the world. But what is interesting about them is the intent behind each one. So voiceover as one word, the intent when someone is looking for it typically is informational and transactional, which is good. If it's transactional, then that means they're probably looking to hire someone or, spend some money. And that's what we want. Voiceover as two words is a commercial intent as well, and that leans towards wanting to make a purchase. But voice actor, when people are searching for it, tends to be informational, like who's that voice actor in, Overwatch, or who are the voice actors in this new Super Mario Brothers movie, right? So they're not really looking to make a purchase. So you could call yourself a voice actor all you want. I certainly do. But on my website, I tend to use voiceover more because I feel like that's the phrase that clients are looking for. They don't really tend to say voice actor, if that kind of helps you.
Good to know. All right,
Yeah.
that's helpful.
Right?
So some of this stuff I know can get a little bit technical,
Mhm.
but for those of us that are, we're not web technicians. What are a couple of simple things that anybody with any level of expertise could do? Maybe you've built your site in Wix or Squarespace
Mhm.
or WordPress or whatever, and you don't really know what you're doing. You've pieced it together, but are there some simple little things that we could do that would immediately give us a little bit of a bump or a little bit of a boost?
Yeah, the biggest thing would be trying to separate out the genres. But what you can do on a site like Wix or Squarespace or whatever is you can, get one page looking the way you want it to and then create duplicate copies. Like that's the template and you're just going to fill in new content for it. So I would start honestly with on the one hand, you could start with the big genres like commercial, animation, video games, which are like all the flashy ones that everybody wants. But, like a lot of times people aren't necessarily looking on Google, like, let me go find a voice actor for, the new Diablo game. Like, you don't need to worry about it. Like, everybody's trying to get into, a Blizzard game. But maybe you want to target those non-broadcast genres like e-learning, corporate narration, things like that, medical narration, audiobooks, like so if you could try to start separating them out, that would be helpful. And like I said, you could just create a new page and write about 300 to 500 words of content. Even if you could just get one going, it would be helpful. And as a side note, I think Marc kind of alluded to it a little while ago, but he was saying it can be helpful for your marketing as well because now you've separated out each of your genres. So it's an added benefit, hopefully a little added motivation. Like when I'm going to market to automotive agencies, they do not care that I was the voice of Xfinity. It does not matter to them at all. They're like, I want to hear you selling cars or like GTFO. So I send them my automotive page and it's like, here is an entire page of
Yeah.
content and examples. It's like so powerful for direct marketing. So I just want to further motivate you to do that. But yeah, separating out the genres is it. That's where we start.
Right on. Now, again, guys, if you're looking to get in touch with Gina, by the way, if you've got questions, you want to dive in deeper, she does offer coaching. She offers some classes and different resources for some of this SEO stuff as well. This is some of her social media connections. This is my chance now to give some coaching to Gina by saying, how is it possible that you do not have a personalized LinkedIn URL? Why have you not done that? No, look at what your LinkedIn, Gina-Scarpa-874-BAA22. Come on.
Wait a minute. I just updated it. No, it's changed. It's different. Wait,
I
hold
just
on.
made this graphic last night. Did you change it this morning?
No, I did it this week and I put it in. Mine says linkedin.com/in/Gina Scarpa. How is this happening to me?
I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
I want
But
to speak to
regardless,
the higher ups at LinkedIn immediately. How dare they?
these are all the different places where you can connect with her, and coaching by
Hilarious.
GinaScarpa.com. Let's talk a little bit about accountability, shall we? Coaching by GinaScarpa.com. So
Brand new. This is a big announcement, by the way.
I reached out to you a couple weeks ago to ask you about Free Advice Friday, and
Yeah.
you mentioned that you had this new website that was in the works. And so I literally said, okay, you're coming on Free Advice Friday by June 9th. So make sure the site is done and ready to go by June 9th. And so that's how you create accountability and motivation to do the thing.
Guess when it was finished? This morning at 11:30. I was like, finally done. I've been working on this for 2 months. Actually, Marc and I met about it, and he really was so helpful because I didn't know how I wanted to try to, kind of start selling my coaching a little bit better, but especially my classes. They were living on my website. And so we were talking about VOpreneur. And so he suggested that I host my classes through the same site he uses. And I said to him, I said, who did your site? He's like, me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I paid someone to help me. See, now I was telling you all you could do your SEO yourself. When it came to coaching by Gina Scarpa, I was like, somebody else help me because my brain cannot handle any more information. I won't learn a new platform. You can't make me do it. No, my sister and I worked very hard on it, and we had this woman come in at the end and just, help out. So I'm in the process of building out 2 more courses. The SEO course is already live. There's some free stuff on there, my one-on-one coaching, but Marc has been so helpful and really guided me through this. So I'm super thankful.
This here is the website, and there are a couple of different free downloads there.
Yeah.
50 SEO keywords, a social media calendar. So there's a few resources that are there. So check those out and take advantage of some of this stuff as a show of thanks and appreciation for Gina and her time and for what she's been sharing here today. Here's another question. This one's from Paul. How much stock do you place in the Yoast recommendations on WordPress? Is the paid version worth it?
I believe I was using the free version for Yoast. My site is hosted, so ginascarpa.com is hosted through WordPress, and I have a website manager. Um, but sometimes I found Yoast to be a little bit frustrating. Like it was saying that the readability wasn't great or anything. What I use for my SEO is SEMrush, like SEMrush.com. You can have a free account on there, and it's limited in what it will tell you, but you can get some good information. Or you can, be a baller and pay $200 a month, which I did for a while, just to get my SEO going. It was like unbelievably helpful. And then I downgraded to free as I'm monitoring it. But Yoast, of the WordPress plugins, I think Yoast is probably the best of them.
This is SEMrush that you were speaking of.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to take that for a test drive, but there's the information on that one.
Yeah.
All right, another question. Let's see. This one from Brian. When you talk about ranking for a keyword, does that mean literally one word, or can you consider something like political voiceover as a keyword? So are we talking keyword versus key phrases, or do those two terms get used interchangeably?
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought that up actually, because there are 2 types of keywords that you want to understand. So one of them is a short tail keyword, which typically is like 1 or 2 words. So voiceover artist would be a short tail keyword. And then there's long tail keywords that are more specific, and they may be like 3 to 5 words. So female, political, voiceover talent would be long tail keywords. So with short tail keywords, the issue with it is that they're not very specific. Like if someone's searching a voiceover, I'm like, I have no idea. Google's like, I have no idea what you want. I mean, voiceover what, right? But if you say hire a voiceover talent or male e-learning voiceover talent, right? Or like non-binary video game voice actor, like now it's like, okay, like I understand what you want. So really I tend to use more of the long tail keywords and less of the short tail because they're non-specific and I don't really know what they want. And so Google just gives them what they think might be the best option. So that was a good question. So short tail and long tail keywords, long tail is the way to go.
This one's from Paul. Is the idea of separating genres pertinent to new voice actors? I would take this from a marketing standpoint and say this is how a new voice actor makes themselves look like not a new voice actor.
Yes.
Because if you have more pages on your website with more demos on your website and more copy on your website and more content on your website, nobody knows whether you've been doing this for 5 minutes or 5 months or 5 years. But that's one of the ways that I think that you can certainly build perception. And from an SEO standpoint, to build these pages out, you don't have to have clients or a portfolio in these genres, right?
No.
You just need to be able to write.
No, exactly. And I do think that it's definitely a very big advantage for new voice actors to do it. I mean, first of all, we know that SEO takes a while anyway, so getting it started early, I think is definitely to your advantage. And I'll just give an example. So I don't do a ton of radio imaging. I've done a little bit for some stations here and there, but I worked in radio for almost 10 years. So my radio imaging page talks a lot about my love for, my time in radio. Even when I was a kid, like at my grandparents' house on Sundays, I would make radio shows in the basement. That's what a lot of the page is about. I don't have a lot to show in the world of radio imaging, but my sister did this wonderful job of telling this story and we're again sprinkling in the the keywords. And so, that's very different than something like commercial where I have many things to show. So whether you have it or don't, I think telling, stories about yourself, what do you specifically bring to maybe something like radio imaging, and also focusing on the value that you provide to clients, I think will be very helpful. So I know I work with a lot of new voice actors. They always struggle with what to talk about. They're like, but I don't have a portfolio. And I'm like, but there's a lot of other things you can talk about. If you've got a
Yeah.
demo and a clip, like I could give you, there's a lot of different things. I'm sure Mark would agree, right? There's a lot of
So
different things you could
I
say.
don't I don't specifically want to go here, but I need to go here. So I'm going to go
Go.
here and I'm
I'll
going to
go
pay
with you.
for it later.
No.
Chat GPT
Yeah.
and writing for SEO.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you tried it? Have you experimented with it? My concern would be that if everybody's asking a same or similar prompt,
Yes.
you're going to end up getting a same or similar copy spewed
Correct.
out, which means then you don't have unique copy on your website. But I'm just curious if you played around with it all.
I have used Chat GPT a little bit because I really want to understand. It's important for me to try to understand AI. Even when it
Yes,
comes to,
agreed.
I mean, even, some people just actively avoid it, but even uh, just as a sidebar, voices.com is introducing AI. And so I went to a webinar the other day because I want to understand what's going on and really
100%. Yep.
know and then make my decisions accordingly. But anyway, when it comes to Chat GPT, so one concern is definitely what Mark is saying. Like, we're all going to kind of say the same thing. Write me a page of content, 300 to 500 words for a female political voice talent. You might be able to use it as a guideline and then try to rewrite it. Okay. And in marketing, I used to work in marketing. We would call it scuffing. Like, you would take an article and just basically rewrite it so it would never get flagged for plagiarism, maybe like your high school term papers or English papers. But you could sort of use it as a guideline or a framework. I think Wesley was saying that in the chat, which is a great, I think a great way to use it if you really want to. But I think there are a lot of concerns between Google and Chat GPT because Chat GPT poses a massive threat to Google. And believe me, Google doesn't want people using Chat GPT content. I mean, if I could give another example, if someone goes on Chat GPT and says, hey, make me a 30-day meal plan for the Mediterranean diet, which is something I recently was advised by my doctor to do. And so Chat GPT writes me this recipe table, and a plan for 30 days. Well, I don't need to go on Google anymore. And because I don't need to go on Google anymore, I don't need to click on anybody's recipe websites. And those recipe websites have Google ads on it. So it generates money for Google and it generates money for the content creator. But I've bypassed all that with ChatGPT, and Google doesn't want that to happen. So
Yep.
I could see a lot of restrictions coming into place. I could see anything that is flagged as being written by AI as, being downgraded. And I just feel like it's probably not worth it. Like, if it feels too
Unless it's written
easy.
by Bard, because then it's Google's, right? So then
Yeah.
they'll let you get away
If it's
with
read
it.
by Bard, that's fine. No, but I feel like if it kind of feels too easy, like, it is definitely concerning. So I would say if you're going to use it at all, use it as the framework and then try your best to write it, rewrite it as best you can and add in a lot of that personality. I mean, that's what is important. It's the same as your voiceover auditions. Like, if you don't have your own personality injected in it, you're just kind of getting lost in the shuffle anyway.
Right. This is a question that you actually answered in the podcast that we did together, and I have implemented all of this when I was redoing my site on the new platform.
Yes.
Richard says, do images contribute to SEO?
Yes.
And if so, how can we optimize? This was a very valuable lesson that, I mean, I think I knew it, but I didn't really think about it. But let me tell you something. Every one of my images on my new coaching site has a novel as the name of the image and the caption for the image. And
Yes. Okay. So yes, of course you want to use images and video on your website as much as you can. But what happens a lot of times is people upload their images and it's like image 12345 is like the example .jpeg, and Google reads the data that is embedded within your image. So it doesn't know who image 12345 is. So when you upload images to WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, whatever, you have a section on your hosting platform to give your image a name and then a description as well that won't show up on the site but is only for Google when the spiders come a crawling. So you want to say, maybe female voiceover talent Gina Scarpa as the title, and then the description might be like, professional voice actor Gina Scarpa specializes in commercial video games, e-learning and medical narration. Like, all of that stuff is going to be really important because when people actually do search your name or search keywords, they might click on images and we want you to show up there as well. And the same goes for videos. If you're a person who does video content or anything like that, or even if you put your demos up on YouTube, you want to utilize the description to optimize, because right behind Google, the number 2 search engine is YouTube, which is
Yep.
owned by Google. But who else would it be? Like Yahoo, Bing?
Yeah.
No, it's YouTube. So, so you really want to utilize your photos and your videos. They're going to be super important to your SEO success.
Right on. Yeah. And that was something that I definitely made improvements on. And I'm sure that I could probably improve even further if I actually took the time to do it. All right, here's one from Vanessa. For SEO, do you think it's important to build a website from scratch rather than using a template through, say, Squarespace? I know you can do a lot more SEO that way. So let's talk about, because I think there's two components to this. One is the structural nature of your website. So the coding and the build of your website and how that impacts SEO. But then we can also talk about what we've been talking about, which is a lot of it has to do more specifically with the content. But what are the structural factors that impact?
I mean, I used Wix for a long time and I really liked it, but I really was operating off of that one-page website. And it wasn't until last year that I made the decision, hey, let me take all of this SEO knowledge that I have and let me, sort of build a site from scratch on WordPress. I mean, I just like using WordPress better, and I liked building it from scratch because I feel like it has way more customization, but I needed to hire a webmaster, or a web designer, to do it for me. I don't have that kind of webmaster, the master of the web. I don't really, I mean, I could probably figure it out, but like I said, I've just decided that I have no more threshold for any new information or platforms.
Fair.
So, Wix is a lot easier, Squarespace and stuff to do yourself. So I don't think that that really poses any issue. I agree, with what Marc is saying, which is it's more about your content. And I think that, Wix, Squarespace and things like that are very user friendly, and it can be fairly easy to implement what I'm saying, as opposed to starting from scratch on WordPress and building it out with coding and all that stuff,
Oh, yes. I taught myself how to hand code HTML in 1995.
Oh my God, he's killing it.
Yes, back in the day. But there are some things structurally speaking, like page load speed, mobile friendliness. Those are some things that you do want to take into consideration, right? Because those factor into SEO. But
no, your site does need
primarily,
to load fast.
we're talking about content.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we're talking about websites, landing pages for separate genres, should I have a central hub web page which spokes out? So I think that's where we're talking about. You've got that one page that feels like the endless scroll website, right? But then your genre pages link out from there.
Yeah, so I have a main page called voiceover services, and then each sub page is the genre. So my navigation menu is like home, about, demos, voiceover services, and then all of the genres. So yes, and you can also, another thing that can help your SEO is internally linking around. So we had talked earlier about backlinks, but internal links are important too. So trying to keep the person on your site. So, on your voiceover services page, you might list out all your genres, and instead of just listing them, you will link each one. So if I click on commercial, it'll take me to the commercial page. Once I'm on the commercial page, it might link to a blog that I did or something like that. So yeah, a main page that is your voiceover services that's more general, like, hey, here are all the things that I do, and then breaking it down on each individual page is very helpful.
Have you had any experience, this maybe isn't a fair question, but between all of these different services, you've got Wix, you've got Squarespace, you've got GoDaddy has a site builder now,
Yes.
you've got all these different options. Have you found, or do you find that one is better for SEO or easier for SEO if you're trying to do it yourself? Does one offer any advantages over another?
I haven't used all of them. I haven't used GoDaddy in like 10 years, so it's hard for me to say. And I've always stuck with Wix, but Wix is pretty user-friendly when it comes to SEO because it gives you a section to enter your meta title and description, which is the information that goes over to Google. So when you're looking at the tabs on your browser, if you're like me, I have 27 tabs open right now. Like whatever the tab is labeled as, that's your meta title. And then Google in your search results gives a little description of that's what this page is about.
Yeah.
But I believe that Squarespace is pretty user friendly as well. Just for me, I have always tended to use Wix. I just think I got comfortable with it, and like I said, I don't want to learn new things anymore because I'm old and crotchety now. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't blame you for that.
Like, you can't make me no more.
I just want to take 1 minute to mention I'm going to be doing a webinar with Nimble. I know this is not SEO related, but I did want to talk about it. It's how to grow your voiceover business using Nimble as your CRM, and that webinar is going to be coming up on Tuesday. The URL is there, bit.ly/Marc Scott to check that out. I'm actually going to be doing the webinar with the CEO of Nimble and sharing 10 of my favorite features of Nimble and how I'm using them for my voiceover business. So you can register for that one there, bit.ly/Marc Scott. All right.
I was
So,
actually just thinking that I wanted to try to come to that because I was like, I would not call my back end processes the most organized.
and
And I was just
now that
thinking, I
you've
was like,
got this new coaching site and you're going to exponentially grow your coaching platform,
yeah,
you're
yeah, I think I
going to
want to. I'm
need,
gonna.
yeah,
I know, no, I saw, and you have a class on your site though too, don't you?
I
So,
do.
but I'm hoping to go to the live one. I'd really like to go actually. So it's so there you go. It was
There you
relevant that
go.
you brought it up because I want to
See.
come.
All right, here's one for SEO purposes, mobile centric, responsive web design, or does it really matter? I think
Uh,
more and more it does.
Oh, yeah, no, it really matters. I mean, so you really want it to be mobile responsive and function, on mobile, on tablet. Less and less people are, sitting at their desktop computer.
Yep.
So even when I was just finalizing my coaching site, I had noticed that the buttons were not showing up correctly. And I emailed my web person for the site and said, hey, you got to get this fixed. Like, I can't have this on the mobile site. So you really want to make sure that on mobile, it's adapting and adjusting and looks really, really nice and functions perfectly because that's where most people are going to come from.
Okay. This one, bouncing off of what we were talking about with images, does alt text count too when you're putting your images and labeling your
Yeah.
images? Yeah.
Yeah, so you want your title and your alt text. You don't really, I think I said description earlier, but sometimes when it says description, that actually shows up as like a little caption on your website. You want the alt text. That's behind the scenes of what's going on. That's what Google's looking at and reading. And it really doesn't show up anywhere. It's just like within the coding, Google's like, "Okay, I know what this is now, and I will show this in search results, when it's relevant."
Did the alt text, maybe it still does, but once upon a time, was it not like if you put your mouse over top of the image, the alt text might appear in that? It would like a little pop up bar or something like that.
Yeah, it would. And there's a
That
way
might
to
be like old school Microsoft Internet Explorer, Netscape, glory days of internet
you
technology
can
too. I
sometimes
don't know, but
you can find people's alt text sometimes too if you right click on images and like on anybody's website and do inspect image. I mean, you're going to get a wall of coding, but you can find people's alt text and kind of see what other people are doing too.
so really, if we just go to your website and do a
No.
right click, if we go to your website in Google Chrome and do the view source code or whatever, right? We can just
Yeah.
rip off all the,
Yeah.
yeah. But just apply it to the keywords that we think that we might rather be found for. Okay, this is from Stevie. How would you strongest counter someone who says SEO for non-super niche is a dark hole not worth investing in for a newcomer? I
Say
think
that again.
we've really proven that
Yeah.
non-super niche is kind of a dark hole though, because if you're trying to go after voiceover, voice actor, male voiceover, male voice actor, some of those more generic ones, it's going to be exponentially harder to compete, right? And
Yeah.
so if you can
100%.
really narrow that down to specific genres or specific things that you do well, right? Like I'm assuming if you were like getting consistently booked for like the warm caring mom or something like that, like you could build SEO around something like that,
Yeah,
right?
you really could. Yeah, for sure. Like maybe like like gruff male voice or it might be like, a lot of people tell me, if you have like a celebrity sound alikes or if you think like, oh, if the specs say this, person. And a lot of times I get Jennifer Lawrence because it's the husk, it's the sarcasm, everything. So it might be like, Jennifer Lawrence voiceover, Jennifer Lawrence sound alike or something like that. It might be, but I think being specific is really, really important and just trying to think about what would someone be searching for? Like, let's be rational. Again, when it comes to video games or something, like for the AAA games, the big games, they're not going to Google to look for people. I mean, unless I will say, unless they're getting very specific. So, I know that Blizzard, when they were building out some of the characters for League of Legends and Valorant, were finding voice actors on Twitter that were listing their nationality as part of their header. And I felt like that was really important. I mean, if there's
Yep.
something very unique about you, that's like, I always tell people, like, there's not a whole lot about me that I can really, that is necessarily unique, especially when it comes to diversity. But if you speak Spanish, if you're from another country, if you're non-binary, if there's things about you that are like, that's not the whole population, building that into your SEO can be super important because when a casting director is looking to cast authentically, they're gonna go to the ends of the earth to find it. So
Yep.
it might be on Twitter, it might be on Google, but that can be very helpful too. Yeah. So I always try to get people to highlight like what's special and unique about you. Maybe you see maybe something like I sing or harmonize and stuff, and so for animation it can be very helpful or jingles
Yep.
for commercials. So I try to highlight that, and that's not something that all voice actors are necessarily highlighting.
This is a really good question. Can the alt text be the same on each image or video? So I know that if you have duplicate text, like if you
Yeah.
use the same bio
Yep.
across multiple platforms, that can
Correct.
actually work against you. If
Yes.
you're using duplicate text on your images, does it
Mhm.
have the same negative impact?
Yeah, I try to make everyone unique, and Mark's right. I mean, a lot of people use the same bio from their website, say on the pay-to-play sites, and I mean, not that we really want our pay-to-play profiles ranking, but we don't want it to affect our website ranking. So
Right.
I try to write unique bios for each of those things. And the same is true with your alt text. Like I do try to change it up just a little bit, even just two words or something, so it's not exactly the same. I really super try to avoid duplicate content wherever I can. Sometimes people have asked if they could republish a blog of mine, and I say I would rather write you a new guest article blog than have you republish it because it doesn't help you or me.
You don't just want the backlink to your
No,
blog so you can get the
no, I'm doing
backlink.
it.
I thought you wanted the backlinks.
I do, but I also want the unique content.
Tyler says, "Will the Nimble webinar be recorded?" Yes, actually, it will be. It will
Nice.
be available on. I think it'll be available on their YouTube channel after the fact. But I'm sure if you sign up, if you register for the webinar, you will get notified when the recording is available. For those of you
Cool.
that are curious about that Nimble webinar. So again, if you've got a question for Gina related to SEO, we've still got a little bit of time left. We've covered a lot of ground here, though. But
Yeah.
certainly put your question into the comments, put the Q beside it so that it pops out on my screen. I'm doing my best to get to as many questions as possible. When you do the tags on your photos, does it only appear when the searcher chooses an image search?
So when I go to like if I search my name on Google and some of my headshots show up, like I don't see the alt text that I put in.
Okay,
Um, so if that's kind of helpful, you're really writing it for the Google
for
spiders.
the spiders. Okay.
Yeah, for the spiders.
How much does image size matter for SEO? This probably comes back to page load speed more than anything, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't really it doesn't necessarily matter, but it does matter by proxy because if you're putting in huge images that are taking a while to load, the longer your site takes to load, the more Google does not like you. So you don't wanna make it, bad quality, but it's, like, just enough resolution where, like, it looks nice and it loads quickly, and you can test your page load speeds, well, that's a hard one, just to make sure that everything's going smoothly.
Okay, good to know. All right. So look, what else can we talk about? This is a lot of stuff. Talk about headings, H1, H2, H3 tags. Let's talk about those a little bit because that's something that probably a lot of us see if you're using a text editor like WordPress has it built in, or
Mhm.
you've probably discovered it in Kajabi as you've been typing out your pages in Kajabi that it gives you the option to choose a heading 1, a heading 2, a heading 3, and a lot of people probably don't even realize that those are actually SEO relevant. So what are some of the basic rules around those tags?
Yeah, you just want to try to utilize headers to separate out your content. Google does not like walls of text at all. They actually prefer shorter sentences and shorter paragraphs split up with these headers in between. So, a good example on my site that I think utilizes the most headers is my medical narration page. I think there's so many. So, like the first header is like medical narration, a voice for your health and safety, and then it's like about all of the different types of or no, I'm sorry, this is about what medical narration is and maybe how a voiceover person can help. And that goes into the next section, which is why is medical voiceover important? That's a header. And then another header, how can medical narration help consumers and healthcare professionals? And so it's doing a couple of things. It's drawing the reader's eye to different sections because a lot of people scan when they read. So they're
Yep.
kind of scanning these headers to be like, okay, like what do I want to focus in on? And it makes it much easier to read. So if anybody's ever dealing with Yoast and it says your content isn't, ranking well for readability, is because you're being too wordy and you almost need to write like it's sixth grade English, like short and sweet sentences, like paragraphs that are 2, 3 sentences where your English teacher would have said, excuse me, this is not a paragraph. It is when it comes to SEO. And those headers are very important because it's breaking things up. It's telling Google what is important here, what should they be focused on, and you're sprinkling those keywords even in your headers as well.
So this is, for those of you that are looking at the screen, this is, an example. This is Gina's medical narration page. So, we've got a video up here. We've got a demo here. We've got some samples here. And then the text, which in reality, 99 out of 100 visitors to your website are not reading any of this, right? And so
Mhm.
it's not there for them. It's there for the Google machine in order to be able to get the rankings. I want to jump back over here to the coaching site for a minute. So we've got a couple of different things here. Why don't you just give us a quick rundown of these, the 50 SEO keywords, the free
Yeah.
class, and the social media calendar. Give us a quick explanation of what these are.
Okay, sure. So the 50 keywords to get you started, just give you some ideas and some examples to go off of, because I feel like a lot of times people don't really know, like, they're like, I don't know what keywords to use or how would you structure them. Someone was asking before, do you mean like one word or four words? So I think the 50 keywords at least give you an idea of where you should start from. And we do cover a bunch of different genres as well. We do some that are very general because some people do want to try to rank for voiceover artists, but we get into the other ones that might be like, e-learning or medical narration. And hopefully that's kind of helpful and gets you started on your SEO journey. And then on Monday, June 19th, I like to do a couple of free classes a year. I just enjoy connecting with as many people as I can and making things accessible, and not everybody can pay for coaching and workshops. So harnessing the power of no is my newest one. And it's about when a client or an agency tells you no, how you can use that to your advantage and use it to actually move yourself forward. And also on the other side, how you can say no to clients that are not giving you, maybe rates or terms that are fair to you, or people that just want to monopolize too much of your time. I'm trying to get better at setting boundaries as well. So it's like a journey I'm on that I'm excited to share. And then the third one is a social media calendar. And really what it is a planner. So it gives you an idea of like, what do 30 days of posting on social media platforms look like? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and that can feel like a lot, but I base the planner off of the best times of day and days of the week to actually post, and then give you 20 ideas as a voice actor of content that you could be utilizing. Because I know sometimes people really struggle with what to talk about on social media, so hopefully that helps people get going. And I'm planning a full social media content and connection course for August. My son is going to help me on it. He's a social media manager. He actually manages Jennifer Hale's socials, who is the voice of Ash from Overwatch and Samus from Metroid and Cinderella from Disney. And he manages some other accounts that are in the millions of followers. So I told him he needs to come on and guest speak. We'll make it like a family affair. We're Italian. We do everything together. Like, what do you want from me?
And the website is
Yes.
coachingbyginascarpa.com, which you can see
Yes.
on your screen right there. But yeah,
It's
coaching
live today.
by
Today's the
Gina
first day.
Scarpa, live today, because that's how
Woo!
accountability works.
Just tell me I have to be live on YouTube, and guess what? It will be done.
I will get the site done. All
It's
right.
live,
Vanessa
isn't it?
says, I have a book I wrote that's not related directly to VO and some art that I sell. Can I link those things from my VO website, or should they stay separate? This is interesting because when you have things that aren't related,
Mhm.
that can actually work a little bit against you from an SEO standpoint, right?
It can. I think a good place to use it, Vanessa, would be in your about page, because you're talking a little bit about yourself personally, and maybe there are some other things that you do. And from your about page, you could link over to those other, others. I would use it as a separate site though, if you can, where you sell your art or your book that you wrote and things like that. So, but definitely your about page is the place to talk about some other things. And it could actually strike up some great conversations with clients as they're reading about you. Like, oh, wow, I didn't know that you did something like this or that. Sometimes I go on people's pages, read their abouts, and I'm like, wow, it's really interesting. These other things that they do. They've, flown airplanes, or they've, traveled the world, or they used to be in the Peace Corps. I don't know, all kinds of things. So your about page is definitely the place to do it if you're going to do it. But I do agree that people have to be careful, especially people who do like on camera and voiceover, like separating things out. If you're really trying to rank on Google, is the way to do it.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Cause that's right. We want to have one hub that makes everything centralized and makes life a little bit easier. But again, it depends on what your ultimate end objective is, right? Some people are not really as worried about SEO because
No, yeah.
for some of us, we probably feel like it's not even going to work anyway, right? Like my primary focus has always been drive my own traffic to my website, right?
Yeah.
Use
100%.
social media, use email marketing, et cetera, to drive my own traffic to my
Mhm.
website. That's not to say that I've given up on SEO. I'm
Mhm.
learning new things all the time, but
Mhm.
I'm also not just sitting back and expecting that the Google machine is going to send all of the people that I need to give me all of the work that I need. But
No.
have you noticed then, I'm curious, as you've ranked higher,
Mhm.
because this is something that you've been working at and you are
Mhm.
getting higher rankings for a lot of your pages, do you see a measurable uptick in the amount of work walking through the door directly from your
Yeah.
website then?
Yeah, people do reach out to me, say, "Hey, I saw, I found your website online and I wanted to hire you or, give you this audition." And that's been really great. But I think one of the best clients to come off of my SEO efforts was Walgreens. And I did 3 commercials with them just off of them finding, I don't know why. I was like, why is Walgreens? I don't know. Why is Walgreens searching on Google? Who could say? But they found me and they were like, this is great. And maybe you're not as concerned about ranking for SEO, but what we were talking about earlier was how do we use this as a direct marketing or as a marketing
Yep.
tool? And I think that is really where the motivation should come from. So like a really, one thing that I've been really pushing to people now is if you're interested in doing political voiceover, like now is the time to be reaching out to people, because when 2024 hits and the presidential election starts going, like they already pretty much have their rosters. So if you think about reaching out to political clients and you send them your homepage and you're like, all of my demos and everything can be heard there. But they go on my homepage and it's like my commercial demo, my video game demo, like what are we talking about here? Like the political page is just all politicals, and it's like for really some really great candidates that I was lucky enough to voice for. So I feel like I'm really able to communicate and make a better impact and give them exactly what they're looking for. Like no one has any patience anymore for anything. No one has any attention span. So you
Yep.
literally need to like spoon feed the Gerber baby food to them and say,
So
here is
true.
exactly what I do. But
As
it
few
yeah,
distractions as possible, right? And so
exactly.
if your e-learning clients are landing on a page that only gives them e-learning
Yes.
content, then there's less of a risk that they're going to fall down a rabbit hole of whatever else you may have to offer. And that certainly
Yeah.
is the other
And
advantage
just
to
say,
these
how is this
genre
relevant?
pages.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
what does this have to do with what I do? I don't even does this person even do? And it's like, yes, I do. If you scroll a little further and you go look over there, it's like, no, just send them directly to that page. That right there, if you can kind of combine what I'm saying about content and with what Mark says about direct marketing, I think you could see some really great results, in the next coming months with that.
Does the political cycle in the United States ever actually end at
No,
this
but
point?
it's kinda slow right now, but last year I cleaned up in the midterm elections. I was like, "Let's go." So I'm in a way, I guess, excited about the presidential election. Who knows what's gonna happen? It's always like a clown fiesta, but, I mean, I know that there's a lot of political work that I
Mhm.
mean, I think that there's a lot of political work I can get, and so having that
Yeah.
political page to me is super important, and I have been marketing now while it is kinda slow,
Yeah.
because when you're in the midst of an election campaign and you have candidates responding in real time to whatever scandals out, whatever their
Yep.
opponent said. It's like, ain't nobody looking at being like, oh, wow, a voiceover submission. Like, we don't have time for that. So we want to build those relationships now. And even, on a lesser scale, like, right now in voiceover, I'm seeing like ads for back to school, and before you know it, it's going to be the holiday ads.
I was gonna
So
say, has anybody seen a Christmas audition yet?
I just did some back to school ones, but it's like you always need to think, like 3 to 6 months down the road when you're marketing for certain things. So, jumping ahead of things can be very helpful and being
Well,
proactive.
and the point that you made with political too, right? When you get into the thick of it and everything is happening in real time, that is when they want to have the established roster in place already so that they can
Yeah.
just start flipping you scripts. That's why
Yes.
they're, now is the time to search, now is the time
Exactly.
to get
The
onto those rosters and
The
yeah.
turnaround time in political is if you don't do political is crazy. It's like,
Yeah.
are you busy in the next hour? I mean, Maria Pendolino, who's an amazing voice actor and a good friend of mine, was saying someone emailed her and said, "Hey, are you available in the next, 2 hours?" And she said, "I'm actually in a session right now, but I could be ready in, 2.5 hours." They're like, "No, sorry, I got to move on." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what? Like, what is this turnaround time?"
It's
But
like promo. It's like
yeah,
network television primetime
promo and
promo.
political, like you have got to be
Yeah.
available. So if you're able to build those relationships and you do this, full time, and you're able to be at the mic whenever they need you, like you can really clean up in the world of political. You
Yep.
can build some really great relationships. That should be your selling point, by the way, for political, is that you are available and you answer lightning fast. You deliver lightning fast. That will really take you far in the world of political marketing.
You're making six figures in your pajamas already, so it's fine if you sleep in the
I
booth
kind of
because you
am.
haven't got dressed yet anyway, right? So you just stay there, sleep in the booth, you're on standby 24/7, ready to go.
This is my
Well,
life. It is.
yeah.
I am in my pajamas, but I work my butt off like 7 days a week, literally like recording on Christmas Day like a lunatic, but that's just how I roll.
So we're just about at time here, so let me put this
Yeah.
back up on the screen again. If you'd like to connect with Gina through social media, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, we're definitely going to evaluate the LinkedIn URL after
Oh
this.
my god.
Facebook, Twitter's there.
I was gonna
Uh,
take your LinkedIn course too, because I was like, I gotta do better.
Apparently, you need to.
I do need to. I need
Coaching
to
by
join.
GinaScarpa.com is the website for the new coaching platform. And so make sure you check that out and some of the free resources that she's offering, some of the premium content that's there as well. Coaching by GinaScarpa.com. But Gina, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and for all of the amazing information that you've shared with us. I feel like you just gave us a 1 hour
It was kind of
SEO
with the whole course,
masterclass.
kind of. Well, at least you could watch it back on my coaching site. But you've been so supportive and so helpful. You're like a big motivator for me, and I talk about you quite a lot when I'm coaching and teaching as well. So I appreciate your knowledge and your friendship and having me on today.
I just appreciate the fact that you actually got it done.
I did it. I
Because
you
there
know,
was a part of me that was like, oh, this is going to be fun, right? Like
no,
when I said that, I was like, oh, we're going to see here. Because I know what I went through when I was getting Kajabi set up for voiceover marketing playbook. And I was
so much.
literally working 7 days a week. I was working
That's a
sometimes
lot.
14, 16 hours a day. And I was like, oh, I get to do this to somebody else now. Gina, can you
It
have
was
it all
so
online by June the 9th?
It was so stressful. And besides having my own site, I have my studio site, which is positivevoicesct.com. But we have a roster of talent and we have been really busy bringing in some new clients. So I've got really 3 sites or 3 businesses to manage. I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Good. One more thing.
help, help.
One more thing. Why not? One more
Why
thing.
not? You know what?
Yeah.
I'm a hustler and I always have been and I will continue to be.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much
Love
for it. I
it.
absolutely appreciate it. Hopefully, I'll do my best. I'll talk to my people and try not to send any more smoke your way.
Please.
I'm currently
This is
being
your fault.
blamed for all of the smoke in the United
Yeah.
States right now because it's coming from Canada, and so obviously as a Canadian, it's my fault. And so
I personally blame you for
yes,
it.
I apologize sincerely for what is going on
You
down there right
should.
now, but.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, everybody. This was so fun.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Gina. I
Thank
certainly
you.
do appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for coming and hanging out and watching and for all of your questions as well. Whatever you decide to do this week, as always, have fun, stay safe, and of course, go find some leads.